Mask. We start with the security guard in full panic mode. He's sweating, shaking, and scrambling to unscrew the vent grate as something pounds against the barricaded door behind him. Each hit harder than the last. The only light he has is a dying flashlight that flickers every time he breathes too hard. He finally rips the grate free and crawls into the tunnel, dragging himself forward as the metal behind him bends inward from whatever's trying to break through. His knees scrape, his hands slip, and the moment he reaches the other side, he drops into a dark, silent supply room. And then he realizes the worst part: there's no way out. Just shelves, shadows, and a single exit door that refuses to open no matter how hard he pulls. The lights click off. One by one. He hears heavy footsteps behind him, slow, mechanical steps that shake the floor. Before he can scream, something hits him from behind and everything goes black. He wakes up, strapped into an old rusted chair, arms pinned, legs locked, chest bound tight. In front of him sits a device shaped like an animatronic's face, but inside it is nothing but razors. Dozens of spinning, circular razors. The machine activates. The blades begin rotating. The mask starts lowering, and he starts begging. He twists the loose screw in his handcuff, ripping his skin open to free himself. He's seconds from escaping when the device reaches him. The spinning metal clamps around his head. There is a flash of sparks, a choking scream, and then silence. Freezer. A lone intruder wanders into the kitchen, kicking broken plates across the tiles as he laughs to himself. He thinks this whole job is a joke. Easy money. Smash a few things, get paid, go home. Then he hears it. A soft, rhythmic tapping coming from inside the walk-in freezer. He stops mid-step. Tap, 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 like someone gently knocking from the other side of the steel door. Curious and a little annoyed, he pulls the freezer door open. Frost spills out in a white cloud. Nothing. Just shelves and cold air. He lets out a shaky laugh, turns to close it. Something catches his eye. Sitting on the shelf now is a cupcake animatronic, perfectly still. Perfectly placed. Perfectly wrong. He blinks, swallows, closes the door quickly, takes a step away. The freezer door slowly opens again behind him. A cold wind crawls up his spine. He turns back. The cupcake is gone. Now panic starts to claw its way up his throat. The kitchen feels heavier, colder, like something is watching from the shadows. He whispers to himself that it's nothing, just his imagination. But then, a huge shadow looms over him. He spins around and comes face to face with a giant bird-shaped animatronic, its glowing eyes locked on him. Holding the cupcake gently in its hand like a gift. His breath stops. It lunges. Claws clamp onto his head. He's dragged backward across the tile, kicking and screaming as his boots skid through the broken plates. The animatronic shoves him into the freezer so hard frost explodes off the walls. The heavy door slams shut. The metal shakes from the struggle inside. His muffled screams echo. Then, a wet crunch. Silence. When the door swings open again, the freezer is empty, except for long fingernail scratch marks frozen into the ice. Mauled. He creeps through the main hall, gripping a crowbar so tightly his knuckles turn white. The other two intruders were supposed to meet him here, but the pizzeria is silent now. Too silent. Every step he takes echoes like he is trespassing somewhere he shouldn't be. He whispers their names. No reply. Then he sees it. A smear of red, fresh glistening, dragged across the polished floor tiles and disappearing behind an overturned arcade cabinet. He swallows hard, forcing himself forward. The cabinet shifts. Just an inch. Just enough to signal that something behind it is still moving. "Hey, you good?" he calls out, voice trembling. He rounds the corner and instantly regrets it. His friend is on the ground, pinned beneath the massive frame of a yellow-feathered animatronic. The creature's beak snaps open and shut mechanically, tearing into the man's face with horrifying precision. Each bite rips away another chunk of flesh, spraying blood across the cabinets like someone flicking paint. The victim tries to scream, tries to push it off, but the animatronic doesn't flinch. It doesn't rush. It feeds with slow, methodical intent, like it's savoring every moment. The intruder drops the crowbar. The clang echoes through the room. The animatronic freezes. Then its head turns, unnaturally slow, until its empty, dead black eyes lock onto him. It rises, still dripping with what's left of his friend, and takes one mechanical step forward, foxed. Foxy emerges from the darkness the same way a nightmare steps into reality. Silent at first, then unmistakable. Jeff is already trembling, clutching the edge of the security desk as the lights flicker. The hallway behind him stretches out like a narrowing throat, every shadow tightening around him. A single metallic clink echoes. Jeff freezes. Then Foxy steps into the light. One glowing eye, rusted metal, breathing like a wild animal, and that massive hooked arm dragging across the wall with a slow screech that slices straight through Jeff's spine. Foxy tilts its head, studying him, then starts singing softly, a broken shard of an old pirate melody. Jeff runs. But Foxy does not chase like a machine. It hunts like something that remembers being alive. The hallway lights blink off row by row behind Jeff, swallowed by darkness as Foxy gallops forward. Metal legs slamming against the ground, hook whistling through the air. Jeff bursts into the security corridor, grabs the door, tries to slam it shut, but Foxy wedges the hook through the gap and forces it open with impossible strength. Jeff screams and stumbles backward, tripping over fallen monitors. Foxy steps inside, towering over him, that glowing eye pulsing like a heartbeat. The hook rises, a flash of red, and the lights go out, swallowed. Max enters the pizzeria calling for her brother, her voice trembling as it echoes through the empty rooms. She moves deeper into the dark, unaware that something is already watching her, not from the shadows, but from the stage. A faint mechanical whir breaks the silence. Max turns. Freddy stands there, completely still, completely wrong. His eyes flicker on, two dead blue lights locking onto her like they've been waiting. Max backs away, breath shaking, but a child's whisper drifts from inside Freddy's chest. Come closer. Against every instinct, Max leans forward, trying to understand, trying to see the child she thinks is trapped inside. She stands on a loose chair, lifts herself up, and peers into Freddy's open mouth. At first, she sees only darkness. Then a human hand shoots forward. It grabs her wrist so hard her bones crack. Max screams, struggling, clawing at the metal teeth. But the hand yanks her deeper. Freddy's jaw opens wider than anything mechanical should, gears grinding like bones snapping. Her legs kick wildly as her upper body vanishes into the animatronic's throat. Home invasion. Inside a quiet living room, Aunt Jane settles onto the couch, annoyed that Abby is still refusing to come out of her room. She turns on the TV, thinking the night is finally calm. But the house suddenly shifts. Lights dim, a floorboard creaks, and without warning, a massive shadow fills the hallway. Freddy steps into the room, towering over her, eyes glowing, moving with slow, deliberate purpose. Aunt Jane barely has time to gasp. Freddy lunges. Everything in the room thrashes. Furniture, lamps, the TV flickering wildly as the animatronic tears through her in total silence except for the grinding of metal and the ripping of fabric. When it's over, Freddy stands still again, the child's spirit inside him staring coldly toward Abby's room. Then he turns and walks away, headed straight to collect Abby, stabbed. In 1982, the pizzeria is buzzing with kids, but Charlotte sits alone, waiting for the animatronics to perform. She notices something no one else does, one of the animatronics dragging a boy away. Fear spikes through her and she sprints to warn the adults, but they brush her off like she is imagining things. With no one listening, Charlotte goes after him herself. She slips into the restricted hallway, heart pounding, and finds the boy unconscious on the floor. She crouches, trying to pull him up, but a long shadow stretches across the tiles behind her. It is William, not a robot this time. The real man. Charlotte tries to run, dragging the boy toward the stage, but William stalks behind her with a knife, closing the distance with calm, terrifying steps. She struggles to lift the boy, stumbling, desperate. She reaches the stage and screams for help, but her voice cuts off. Charlotte collapses forward as the stab wounds hit her all at once, blood soaking her shirt. Kids gasp, parents freeze. Then, as if mocking the audience, the trapdoor opens beneath her lifeless body. Moments later, she rises back up, carried by the marionette, cradled like a broken doll, possessed. Lisa arrived at the original 1982 pizzeria with one goal: film the darkest episode her horror channel had ever made. She brought her whole crew, confident, excited, convinced this abandoned building would finally give her viral fame. But the moment she stepped inside, something felt wrong. The walls were rotting, the lights flickered like they were breathing, and even though the place was silent, Lisa kept hearing faint music, a soft, eerie melody only she could hear. Every time she turned her head, the sound drifted somewhere else, pulling her deeper into the pizzeria like bait on a hook. Michael, the night guard, warned her the place plays tricks on people. But Lisa didn't listen. She needed the footage. She needed the story. She needed the views, so when the rest of her crew split off, Alex with Michael, Rob into the basement, Lisa followed the music alone. The hallways got narrower, dust thickened in the air. The melody grew clearer, like a toy winding itself up just ahead of her. Finally, she pushed open a door and found herself in a small, dim-lit room. In the center stood a giant, old-fashioned gift box. The music was coming from inside it. Confused but curious, Lisa lifted the lid, finding an ancient music box rattling inside. She shut it, expecting the noise to stop, but instead the entire gift box began to quake. Lisa stepped back. The lid blew open, and the marionette lunged out. It wrapped its long, bone-like fingers around her face, its mask hovering only inches from her eyes. She shrieked and fought, but the marionette tightened like coiling string, pulling her close until her voice broke into silence. Her knees buckled. Her arms dropped. Her body went still. Then, jerk. Her head twitched upward. Lisa slowly stood on her feet, but there was nothing human in her posture anymore. Drowned. Rob should have ignored the sound. But deep in the old Freddy's basement, when a motion detector suddenly blinked to life, curiosity overpowered fear. He moves toward the sensor, flashlight shaking in his hand, trying to see what triggered it. The floor is slick, the air damp, and as he leans forward to get a better look, his footing gives out. Rob slips and crashes straight into a dark underground water pit. Cold water swallows him instantly. He fights his way up, gasping, trying to grab the edge, but the basement is a maze of shadows, pipes, and echoing dripping noises. He calls out for Alex, but his voice goes nowhere. Only the sound of the water rippling back at him. Then something hits the surface beside him. A puppet. A marionette. It drops into the pit like a corpse being tossed from above. Rob freezes in horror, because the second puppet hits the water. Then a third, then dozens. Hundreds of marionettes begin pouring in, splashing down around him, their strings snapping, their painted faces floating and sinking in the water like a mass grave waking up. Rob tries to swim, tries to scream, but the pit becomes a churning sea of pale wooden faces and grasping limbs. The puppets drag him down, pulling at his clothes, wrapping around his wrists, yanking him underwater. The basement echoes with thrashing water. Then silence. Split. Alex was already on edge after hearing Lisa scream, but he followed Michael deeper into the pizzeria anyway. The halls were darker now, quieter, like something was waiting for them. As they turned a corner, an animatronic stepped out of the shadows and grabbed Alex by the throat. He struggled, but the robot dragged him backward into a room filled with broken gears and machinery. Before he could call for help, the animatronic slammed him onto the metal pile, and the gears instantly roared to life. In a single violent moment, the machinery crushed and tore through him, the sound echoing down the hallway. By the time everything went still, Alex was gone, swallowed by the rusted gears that shredded him apart. Crushed. Abby arrived at the science fair proud of the little robot she built, the one she said her friends helped her make. But the moment Mr. Berg saw her, he shut everything down. He walked up with that same disgust he always had and said she shouldn't have even shown up, that she was an embarrassment. Before Abby could defend herself, he grabbed her project, inspected it for a second, then accidentally crushed it with his hands. The crowd stared. Abby ran away in tears. And that is when Chica decided to handle it. Meanwhile, Berg is still patrolling the fairgrounds, barking orders and kicking kids out of restricted areas. He hears a noise behind a maintenance store and leans in to investigate. The hallway is dark and silent, until a sudden blur of yellow metal bursts through the glass. Chica drags him inside. He tries to scramble away, but Chica lifts him effortlessly, pinning him against the wall. Her tone is cold as she tells him he should have been nicer to Abby. Then, with mechanical precision, she tightens her grip around his skull. The pressure builds and builds until bone gives way under the crushing force. Springtrap. Mike rushes back into Freddy's, following the echo of metal banging. A locker rattles violently. He yanks it open. Vanessa collapses out, shaken and gasping. She tells him the truth in one breath. Abby left with the prototypes, and Charlotte is controlling them. The marionette is free, and Abby is the target. They race into the basement. Mike slips on the wet floor, plunges into a submerged pit. A prototype splashes in after him, mechanical fingers reaching through the water, but he drags himself out and escapes before it can pull him under. In the control room, Vanessa explains everything. Charlotte died trapped in this place decades ago, her soul anchored to the system. The music box kept her locked until Lisa broke it. Now she jumps between animatronics, searching for a body strong enough to stay in. Mike works frantically to restart the perimeter grid while Vanessa searches for Abby. Meanwhile, Abby wins the science fair, Chica smiling beside her. But the truth hits seconds later. It is not really Chica. Mike's shutdown command hits, but Chica overrides the entire system, activating every prototype across the city. And then the chaos begins. A man in his garage freezes as glowing eyes enter the room. A child hears a friendly voice at her door, but it is not friendly. Vanessa is rammed off the road, attacked again, barely escaping. A couple is cornered inside their home as metal claws tear through their walls. Vanessa crashes her car through the house to save them, destroying 2 prototypes in one strike. Back in Mike's home, he battles another animatronic. He grabs a mask face prop, confusing its sensors, then snaps its neck. But more shadows gather around him. Just as they lift their blades, the perimeter grid pulses back on, and every machine drops dead. Mike calls Vanessa, but then he hears something. One animatronic is still active, and it is inside his house. Chica tucks Abby into bed, then begins to glitch violently. Her body jitters, bends, twists, and the marionette crawls out of her, attacking Abby instantly. Vanessa races to the house but finds it empty. Static crackles from Abby's pass stalker. A possessed Abby lunges at her, barrel unnaturally strong. She runs. Abby hunts her down the hallway. Just as Abby raises her hands to kill her, Mike bursts in and plays the music box. Charlotte's grip breaks. Abby collapses into herself. They try to escape, but the animatronics surround them in a tightening circle. Then Michael steps out. He calls Vanessa his sister. He tells Mike he orchestrated everything. He will continue their father's legacy, and Vanessa must join him. Michael orders the prototypes to kill them, but instead, only the original animatronics arrive. And they turn against Michael. The prototypes charge first, but the originals tear through them one by one. Michael tries to run, but Jeremiah blindsides him with a punch, dropping him cold. When the dust settles, every prototype lies silent, broken, sparking, lifeless. Abby cries. A child soul steps out of the haze and comforts her. He tells her they are finally moving on.